Hey guys, today I'm going to share with you my recipe for an overnight pizza dough made with a Poolish. Check this out. I say it makes some pretty kick-ass pizza. What do you think? So a Poolish is something called a pre-ferment. Simply put, it's a portion of the dough that's mixed ahead of time, usually several hours. It's allowed to ferment, and then it's mixed with some more flour, water, a little bit of salt, and some more yeast to make the final dough. This technique packs in a ton of additional flavor in an otherwise very simple recipe. Let me quickly walk you through the steps on how I make this particular dough. First, you got to make the Poolish. It's a piece of cake. Place 272 grams of room temp water in a container, then add 3/4 of a gram of instant dry yeast. Next, combine the liquid with 272 grams of 00 flour and stir it together to make a nice smooth paste. Bread or all-purpose flour will probably work for this recipe, but the dough consistency and your final product will likely be different than what you see here. Lightly cover the container and place it in a room with an ambient temperature of about 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius. In this environment, the Poolish will take about 7 to 8 hours to fully ferment. If the temp is lower, then the Poolish will take longer, and on the flip side, if it's hotter, the Poolish will ferment a lot faster. Quick note, if you don't have a kitchen scale and a micro scale, I highly encourage you to pick up a set. It'll just make the whole pizza making game a hell of a lot easier for you. Neither are expensive, and to make it easier on you, I dropped some affiliate links in the description box below this video, so check them out. When the Poolish is ready, it's time to mix the final dough. Add 183 grams of room temp water to a large mixing bowl. Scrape the Poolish out of its container and into the bowl with the water, along with another 0.57 grams of instant dry yeast. This is when you need that micro scale. Also add 19 grams of sea salt. It's probably not necessary, but I like to stir the mixture with a fork so that all these items are evenly mixed together before adding more flour. In case you're wondering, that additional yeast helps boost activity and speed up the fermentation process without losing that improved flavor from the Poolish. Finally, add 407 grams of 00 flour to the bowl. Then stir the mixture with a fork until you have a very shaggy pizza dough. Ditch the fork and start working the dough with a wet hand. When the dough is mostly come together, start using a technique called the pincer method. I learned about it from one of Ken Forkish's books on how to make bread and pizza dough. Pretty cool books, check them out. Essentially, you grab the dough with one hand and pinch or squeeze it a handful of times across the length of the dough mass. Do that, then fold the dough over on itself a few times, and repeat the pincer method until the dough is somewhat smooth and homogeneous. The whole process shouldn't take more than a few minutes. At this point, cover the bowl with some plastic film or a wet kitchen towel, just something to keep the dough from forming a skin, and let it rest for about 20 to 30 minutes. Now, I've tried this recipe using both a mixer and doing it just by hand, and for some reason, the dough always comes out better without the machine. So that's what you're going to see in this video. Once the dough is rested, perform a series of folds with the dough. Then turn it over so the folds are on the bottom. Then let the dough rest for another 10 or 15 minutes. To be honest, you can probably skip this step. I just found it helpful to have a little bit more gluten formation before kneading the dough more aggressively by hand. This step just made it feel a little less wet and sticky feeling. That's all. Okay, now turn the dough out onto a counter and gently knead it by hand for a few minutes until the gluten has started to develop a bit more and it's smooth in texture. If your dough still feels rough on the surface, then cover it with the bowl and let it rest for another 10 or 15 minutes. Then, once it's relaxed a bit, stretch it and fold it a few times, and that should do the trick. Shape the dough into a ball and place it into a lightly greased bowl. Cover it tightly and let the dough proof at room temp for 2 to 3 hours at about 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius. By this point, the Poolish should have just about doubled in size, maybe a little less. Go ahead and portion the dough into 4 equally sized pieces. They should weigh about 275 grams each, with a tiny bit of dough left over. Form each piece into a tight dough ball. Rolling them around on the counter like I'm doing here works pretty well. Just remember to seal off the bottom of each ball by giving the dough a few pinches. Place the dough balls in lightly greased containers and let them rest at room temp for about 30 more minutes before placing the dough in the refrigerator overnight. And the next day, the pizza dough will be ready to use by dinner. Just remember to pull the dough balls and let them rest at room temp for an hour or so before you bake with them. I thought it would be helpful to bullet point my dough making schedule for this recipe, and here it goes. For like a Sunday pizza night thing, make the Poolish first thing on Saturday morning. That's usually around 8 a.m. The Poolish is then fully fermented around 3 or 4 p.m., and that's when I start making the final dough. By 5 p.m., the final dough is proofing, and then by 7 to 8 p.m., it's ready to be portioned. By 8:30 p.m., the pizza dough is then placed in the fridge to cold ferment overnight. On day 2, I then pull the dough around 5 p.m., and then by 6:30, the first pizza is hitting the oven. Got it? Cool. Let's make some pizza. Okay, here's my dough. This has been sitting at room temp for about an hour and a half. Just a little bit of flour to the board here. Just a little bit. Go. It's very airy. And I'm going to push all of that air to the outside of the dough to form that outer crust. Flip it over. Get all the air to the edges. All that gas, I should say. Gas, it's not air, gas. Pick it up, just use my knuckles to stretch it a little bit, and letting gravity do some of the work as well. Just handle it with kid gloves. Don't get too forceful with it. I'd say that's about a 10 or 11 inch pizza. When I get it up onto the peel, it'll get to be about a 12 inch maybe, something like that. All right, I'm gonna keep this pizza pretty basic. It's got some tomato sauce here. There we go. And next up, let's put some parm on there. That's good. You can always do the parm after the mozz, but I'll do it this way today. Some fresh mozzarella. There we go. Ready for a bake. Oven's like 850, somewhere in there. Closer to the flame, it's almost 900. And then over here, it's mid to upper 800s. All right, pizza's going in. Get it rolling. Oh yeah, getting a good rise on that outer crust. For some reason with all my pizza, I get one side that's a little uneven. It doesn't rise quite as much. Getting some really good color on the crust here. Love it. All right, here we go. What do you guys think? Whoop, I'm losing. Cheese is going all over the place. Check that out, man. That looks pretty damn good. All right. Beautiful. Wow, there's like a thin layer of crispiness on the surface of the dough. Wow. Okay, let's take a look underneath before I cut into it. Pretty evenly baked. That looks great. Where should I cut? Let's do that, okay. All right. Whoa, that's an air pocket right there. Here, there's a better shot right here. Can you see that? Check that out. Beautiful. Yeah, so like super soft on the inside. Nice and crispy on the outside. Yeah. Let's dig into this. There we go. All right, on my knees for this one. Awesome. Let's try some crust. Heck yeah. This is a damn good dough right here. Man, it's so like crispy on the outside, so tender on the inside. Like I said before, dough's got great flavor. Man, this is a winner. Oh man, getting old. Anyway, to be completely honest here, the pizza that you just saw me eat is not the pizza that I just baked. I ran out of light shooting this video a few days ago, so I had to make a new batch of dough and wait, and here we are. But I promise you the recipe is identical. It's exactly the same. The time frame is exactly the same. The oven's the same. Everything is the same. So at the very least, you know that this recipe is consistent. Now, you're probably wondering, what is this oven that I'm using? It is the Bollore from Pizza Party. They shipped it to me straight from Italy. That's where they're made. And I want to take a minute or so to talk about the features and what I really like about this oven. All right. Let me kill this propane so you don't hear it while I talk. There we go. All right, now the setup on this oven was really easy. The oven weighs a little over 75 pounds, so I needed some help getting it out of the box and onto the table. Good news though, the exterior dimensions are 27.5 inches by 27.5 inches, so it fits perfectly on a 30-inch prep table. There was some protective film covering, parts of the exterior of the oven. It took a few minutes to peel all that stuff off, but no big deal though. The Bollore comes with 4 pizza stones, and they fit in there kind of tight, so it took some finagling to get them set and positioned correctly. Now my oven was shipped with the Saputo stones. That's an upgrade and an additional cost. By default, the Bollore comes with the refractory or the quarterite stones, which are fine, but the Saputo stones are pretty sweet, man. They retain heat and distribute it very well. I definitely recommend that upgrade if you have the coin. Next, I installed the burner. It goes in through the front of the oven, makes adjusting heat very easy to do on the fly. Then I hooked it up to propane and ran the oven for about an hour or so just to burn off any factory residue, left on the inside of the oven. And that's just a good thing to do with anything that you're cooking food in. The mouth of the oven is about 17 inches wide, so plenty big for largish pizza. The oven is multi-fuel, so it burns gas or wood, not both at the same time though. The interior of this oven is about 24 inches by 24 inches, so theoretically you could cook 2 pizzas at the same time. Never done that before, but let's give that a try right now. All right, here goes nothing. That one's going all the way in the back. This one's gonna go right up front. Whew. Man, I'm nervous. I've never done this before. I'm cheating. There. Oh, damn, this one, ow. Damn, this one looks pretty good. Let's turn it down a little bit. All right. This one's not quite shaped properly. All right, this one's coming out. That one looks pretty good, all right? And this one is, it's all right. Quick temp recovery check here. On the right-hand side, in the back, it's about upper 700s. Front left, mid 800s, not bad. Here we are, voila. Let's check out the bottoms. There's one. There's 2, they both look about the same and they were cooking in different parts of the oven. The outer crust on each pizza looks consistent, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a few comments about that. And yes, I'm very well aware that 9 out of 10 people would consider these pizza overbaked. But you know what? I like a little char on my crust. All right, that about does it. Now I'm gonna leave the recipe and the measurements in the description box below the video, along with a link to Pizza Party's website, so you can check out the Bollore. You got any questions, hit me in the comments below. Other than that, have a beautiful day.